In this Part 2 movie on simulating heat distortion, you put together the two rendered sequences you created earlier. Start Autodesk Combustion. Using File Open, locate the folder where you rendered the fighter plane and the particle sequences. Make sure Collapse is enabled and choose the F-plane sequence and click OK. Choose the 2D composite option and click OK. This creates a new composition based on the footage you selected in terms of image resolution and duration. If your timing display is not set to frames, right-click the animation end box until the timeline is set from 0 to 201. Scrub through or play back the animation to see the rendered sequence. Next, you need to use the particle effect as a distortion filter. For that, you need to load the particle sequence into the composition, but not necessarily as a layer. At this time, the only layer in this composition is the F-plane layer based on the rendered footage. Choose File Open again, and select the particle sequence and click OK. This time, choose to import the sequence into the existing workspace. This makes the particle footage available without making a composite layer out of it. The display also switches to display the particle effect. You can view it if you want, but when you're done, double-click the F-plane layer to go back to the fighter plane animation. Select the F-plane layer. From the Operators menu, choose Distort, Displace. This is like applying a filter in Adobe Photoshop or After Effects. In fact, these applications have a similar filter called Displacement Map. In Combustion, you need first to select a layer, or a map, for the Displace operator. As you might have guessed, that layer is the particle's footage we named Jet Wash. You have various controls over the effect. You can even choose separate horizontal and vertical distortions. These can be based on RGB information, alpha, or simply luminance values. Since the particle effect is only black and white, luminance will do fine. You can also adjust the scale of the effect. Try values of 1.5%. That should be enough for this example. Play back the animation to see the effect. Notice the heat distortion effect on the tail of the plane and behind it, courtesy of the particle system and the displace operator. One advantage of using Combustion over other post-effects applications is that Combustion has its own built-in particle system. Even though it's a 2D particle system, it can work rather well in certain situations and is far simpler and faster to use compared to a full 3D system. To illustrate the point, you'll use a simple static background image. Close this workspace and choose File Open to create a new one. This time, disable Collapse as you will be loading a single image, not an animated clip. Choose the last image in the fighter plane sequence, F-plane 0200, and then click OK. Load the footage into a 2D composite and click OK. Set the composite output duration to 200 frames, and similarly, set the footage duration to 200. Relocate the playback out point to frame 200 so you are able to play the whole animation later on. Instead of a 3D particle system, you will use Combustion's particle system to simulate the same effect as earlier. Select the composite branch and add a particles operator. Make sure you are at the beginning of the animation. Double-click the particles entry to bring its focus to the viewport. Go to the toolbar and choose the Line Emitter tool. Scroll down the list of particles and choose Flames. Click 2 points below the fighter plane, which cover the width of the image. Leave yourself a small margin. Click the Emitter button to adjust the parameters of the particle system. Set the preload frames to 100. This ensures you see flames at the beginning of the animation. Set the life to about 130%. This will make the flames last longer. Play back the animation. At this time, it looks like the tarmac and the plane are on fire. Keep in mind that you can animate particle systems in combustion both at the parameters level or at the transforms level. This could be useful if the background plate, the fighter plane, is animated. In order to use this effect as a displacement map, you first need to save it to disk. Turn off the composite that contains the fighter plane footage and double-click the particle system. Now you are ready to render out the particle system separately. Choose File Render. The output is set to Targa Sequence by default. This will do nicely. Choose an output folder and specify a name, such as Flames, and click OK. Process the render. See how much faster it renders compared to a 3D particle system. Close the dialog when done. Turn the composite of the fighter plane back on and delete the particles operator. Choose File Open and enable Collapse. Load the flame sequence into the workspace. The display changes to show you the flames footage. Double-click the F-Plane 0200 layer one more time. Like you did before, add a displace operator to that layer. Choose the flames footage as a displacement map. Try different distortion types. Red distortion in one direction and green distortion in another should yield some interesting results. This tutorial showed you a couple of different ways to simulate heat distortion as a post effect. We hope you found the techniques useful.